Andrew, welcome to the Big Lab podcast. How are we doing?
Good, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Oh my, the Big Lab podcast is going international again. You're from
Yeah,
New Zealand, I believe.
correct. Yep.
It's a bit of a time difference. I think, was it 7 o'clock in the morning for you?
Just gone over. Yep. Yeah, 7 a.m.
Nice, very nice. Do you want to give yourself a quick introduction to the listeners?
Yeah, I am Andrew Robinson and I am me. I try to think about how to answer that. And just because I wear so many different hats. And I've kind of just realized that I don't really identify with any one particular hat anymore, which is actually really exciting. Um, I've been in sales most of my life, but I've also done endurance sports for the last 10 years. More recently, kind of fallen into becoming an advocate of doing difficult things and having meaningful conversations. And now I don't know who I am, and it's one of the best feelings I've had. So yeah.
I can definitely identify with the multiple hats
Yeah.
because for my day job, I'm an accountant and a commercial project manager. I have my online coaching, I have my podcasts. So I can identify with multiple hats and live in almost multiple lifestyles, I guess, in a way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I actually found you obviously through Instagram, through your Tough Yarns page. So I guess we'll get into that. What is it all about? What are you doing? What is the purpose behind Tough Yarns?
Yeah, I suppose to summarize it as best as possible is just to encourage people to do difficult things and have meaningful conversations. The overarching theme, I guess, is mental health, but that was never necessarily the initial driver, if that makes sense. It's just something that kind of ties everything together, and a lot of that comes from a lot of lessons that I've learnt through having my own meaningful conversations with people around me and doing a ton of difficult things myself. And those two things, alongside a few others, have been the things that have enabled me to grapple or be a lot stronger in grappling with my own problems. And so I've realized that a lot of people could possibly learn from that. And if I can show people in maybe a slightly different way, then yeah.
Yeah, so the way, like I found you through the Explore feed where you essentially go up to strangers and ask them to get into some cold water with you for a dip. And then sometimes they say yes, sometimes they come up with a few excuses saying that maybe it's a bit too cold. Where did that idea first come from to just ask a stranger to jump in some cold water with you?
From a friend of a friend. So I am doing a project in November for Movember, which is still to be announced. But I was kind of looking to create a bit of a platform that I could possibly slingshot from. And so I met with a guy, Stanley Henry, who runs a company called The Attention Seeker. It's a social media marketing company, through a friend of mine. And we were just having a conversation. I am unfortunately not in the position where I could employ his services, but he kind of made a really off-the-cuff comment about, we were having a conversation. He said you could just ask people to jump in the lake or something. And it was really off the cuff, like I say. And I was riding home from that meeting, about 10 kilometers for me to ride from there to home. And I was thinking cold water conversations, just everything started to that was on a Friday night. And honestly, if it had been a Friday morning, I probably would have asked people that day. But yeah, I picked up the GoPro the next morning and got into it.
I think that's the best thing about that content as well, though. It's so simple. You literally grab your GoPro, don't you, and walk up to some strangers, ask them to jump in the water. And I assume over your side of the world, it's winter right now? Or
it is, yeah, or spring at least. Yeah, early spring. Yeah.
So
yeah.
The water's still pretty cold.
Yes, yeah, it's cold enough. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's literally just a case of walking up to a stranger, and then every now and again, don't they ask why, what's the purpose, and then you tell them the purpose behind it. And then that seems to be the bit that sort of tempts them into going into the water. Because I've seen a few of them where people have said no at first, and then all of a sudden they go, I will get in.
Yeah, exactly. So very few people jump in without reason. And it's kind of, I guess, one of the lessons that I've learned, but I've also understood for a while. It's showing in real time, if that makes sense. But yeah, it's often the people who are curious who are the people who get into the water. If someone doesn't have any curiosity, then they often don't end up swimming, which is absolutely fine. But it's possibly a lesson to learn.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. And I guess it kind of ties into the trend of rejection therapy that I'm seeing quite a lot on Instagram. I mean, there are some accounts out there that are taking it to extremes where they're doing ridiculous things for clicks and views. But I think what you're doing is like there's a really good message behind it to have those difficult conversations with people and sort of push others into doing similar.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about rejection therapy until after I started Tough Yarns, and I think it's Daily Rejection, who's another Kiwi, ironically. He popped up, and I was like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool. But no, there was no intention to kind of inspire rejection therapy as such. It's more maybe just showing people that actually there are people out there that are willing to have a conversation. And yeah, like you say, if I can ask a stranger to jump in a freezing lake in winter, at least it was at the time, then someone can have the confidence to ask someone out for a coffee or ask for help or whatever that difficult conversation that they're struggling to have is.
I guess the rejection therapy side of things links in with you just actually going up and accepting maybe no is going to be an answer. And then it's not, the more you do it, the less it bothers you as much. But there's obviously that overarching or underarching message of the mental health and having those difficult conversations and hoping other people go and do similar
Yeah,
based
for
on
sure.
your experiences that you've had that have helped you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So just going back to it then, like a little bit of behind the scenes, you obviously grab your GoPro. What is the thought process behind the video? What are you thinking? What is the process of you actually doing it?
Just being present, honestly. Um, yeah, it's more just the first day. I guess to jump back a little bit, I've done 8.5 years of cold calling, door to door, business to business, streets events, and that's why rejection therapy was never necessarily a something on my mind. I've had people tell me to get lost in some way, shape, or form, probably 100,000 times in my life, and so there's no nervousness around that for me. I haven't advertised that. I haven't shouted it from the rooftops because I want to eliminate any excuses people might have around the fact that they don't have that experience. And so they might be scared of, oh, well, Andrew can do that because he's got that experience, so I can't do it. And so I've kind of eliminated that. I've also not used, or I've used very, very, very few sales techniques to actually inspire people to get into the water. It's just been genuine conversation. When I first started, there was a little bit of anxiety of my own around doing it on camera. I'm not sure if you saw day 94 or whatever it was, but I really don't like talking to the camera. I'm not too sure what it is, if it's some anxiety around previous experiences or what it is, but that was scary. But since then, it's just become an opportunity for me to be present and have just conversations with good people. I think the epitome of that is yesterday was day 102 or whatever it was. I only planned on asking people to come swimming for 100 days, and then I would transition into something else. I did a running event on the weekend, kind of got that up. That was pretty cool. And yesterday I was sitting around with, 45 minutes spare and the lake's only a 5-minute walk from me. I was like, I'm going to go and ask some people to go for a swim. Like I thoroughly enjoy it. And yeah, like I say, it's just an opportunity to just be present and have a yarn with some people. So
Yeah, no, I think it's a great idea. Like for me personally, I've got a friend who does a community walk every month. So he picks a location, a load of us turn up, maybe 20, 30 of us, and there's always a cold dip. So I've definitely felt the benefits of going for these cold dips. I'd love, like, it's difficult for me to get out of them at the end of
yeah,
the day.
okay.
Like, I want to be in there and everyone's getting out and getting changed and moaning that they're cold. Once I
Yeah.
get into it, I just, you can't get me out.
Yeah, right.
But is there a, so obviously you say you were a little bit anxious about being on camera. Is that another thing that you've sort of just got used to as repetitions happened on a daily basis? You've got more used to and comfortable?
Yeah, I think just a couple of positive interactions and it's all good. there's some boundaries that I put in place early on, which was I'm not going to put the camera on somebody without asking their permission. And if I ask their permission, then it takes away from I think the ad hoc nature of the project. And so that's why the camera's on me before I actually ask, or whilst I ask at least. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that in regards to it being on me. Yeah, I've just got used to it, and I'm still uncomfortable talking to it by myself. The people that I'm talking to are kind of a medium to talk through the camera, if that makes sense.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
kind of ignore that it's like out to your side and you're just having the conversation.
Exactly, and I film it on as wide as possible so that I don't even have to point it in the right direction. I can just find myself after the fact.
Yeah, I can imagine though as well, walking up to someone with a camera sort of at arm's length. Everyone's looking at it anyway, going, oh, hold on, what's going on here?
Yeah.
But like for myself, I've been on social media, I think, since 2018. So coming up to 8 years. At times I've been able to go into a gym or out in public and speak to a camera and it not bother me. If I don't do it for a while, I do find it a little bit difficult to get back into doing it. And yeah, it is just a sort of repetition thing, and realize that no one really cares. Like, especially in an age where there's things like FaceTime. For all everyone knows, when I'm walking along speaking to my camera doing a story or something for Instagram, for all they know, I'm on FaceTime to my mum or something like that.
Yeah, true. I never actually thought of that. Yeah.
Like, I did a story earlier today, just saying that you were coming on the podcast, and it's been a while since I've done a story out in public, and it took me a couple of times because there was cars going past and it was a bit too loud. I had to take it a few times, but once you get into it and realize no one really is that bothered because they're too busy doing what they're doing, it makes it so much easier. I think quite often people stress too much about what other people think instead of just doing what they want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, I agree with that fully. I think it's a lot easier to see that and to agree with that when you know that what you're doing or your intentions are right. I think that's the difference. Is the ego's great at trying to stop you from doing something possibly or making you look bad, but it's very easy to kind of maybe accept that or push that aside. Like I say, if the intention is right, it's really easy to go, actually, do you know what? I'm doing this for a reason. And whatever that reason is different for each person. But I think that definitely makes it easier to, I mean, it's the same with the rejection, right? Like if your goal is just to get rejected, then it's a little bit maybe odd. But if the goal is to, inspire people to be able to get the skills that they need to be able to go through tough times, it's like someone tells you to get lost. Okay, cool. I'll find someone else. There's no worries about that. So yeah, that's been something that's helped me get through that. Yeah, I suppose there is a little bit of rejection therapy. Like I said, I'm used to it already, but that's been massively helpful as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, like I said before, if you have time off doing something, then there is that little bit of anxiety behind it. Once you start getting back in the flow again, I imagine it's a lot easier, especially you're over 100 days of doing this now as well. So like we said, it does just become sort of second nature almost.
Yeah. Well, you do a bit of coaching in regards to gym and that sort of stuff. Yes. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've, I assume, heard of greasing the groove?
Think so.
Possibly. I think so. Might have been Pavel Tsatsouline, the kettlebell coach, who was kind of talking about doing might have been him, small incremental things regularly. So instead of going and doing 100 pull-ups in one go, is just doing 2 pull-ups 50 times a day, kind of throughout the day. And that enables a lot more change long term. I think it's a little bit like that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Whereas, like you say, if you stop and then you try and film a 3-hour feature-length film with, very little, greasing of the groove, it's going to be there's going to be a ton of friction. But if you just do a minute a day, then it becomes a lot easier over the long run, is possibly a good analogy.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Like, I've always said it, especially in the gym, things like abs, like training abs. Some people will put one whole session in a week for abs. And I'm like,
Yeah.
why would you do that? Like,
Yeah.
just do little and often throughout the week.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, obviously, your abs are going to impact other movements. Say if you were deadlifting, if you've done a whole big heavy session on your abs the day before, your
Yeah.
deadlifts probably aren't going to be that great.
Yeah.
But if you do a
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
bit throughout the week, it's going to help you a lot more in the long run.
Yeah. I
So
don't think I've ever done a specific ab workout.
neither have I. Neither have
Heavy
I, but I've
squats
known
and
of people to
farmers
do it.
carries. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So just going back to the videos then, what is the most memorable interaction you have or most unexpected reaction that you've had of someone that you've approached?
I get asked this a lot, and this I think this might sound like a bit of a fob off, but there's genuinely no most memorable. There's possibly memorable in the regards to stories and maybe what people have been through, and also maybe memorable in regards to changes that I've been able to make in people's lives. For example, very early on, I had a lady who lost her dad 4 years to the day that I posted the video. And she hadn't had any ability to be able to deal with that grief and have conversation around it. And it was the posting of that video with her that enabled her to be able to start that conversation with her family. Like, you can't forget that, you know what I mean? I had a guy who lost his dad to depression when he was 7. His dad was 30. So there's kind of stories like that. But there's also just the ones that don't even make it onto film. Relatively early on, I spoke to a guy who found a suicide note from his son 2 weeks before I asked him to come swimming. And he didn't swim, but it was just, I think I've always luckily had this attunement or empathy thanks to my father instilling it in me, but just kind of I've always been able to understand that other people are going through something, right? At some point. This was a massive eye-opener to go, you really have no idea what anyone else is walking around with. Like, if someone's rude to you in a car park or they cut you off in line or something like that, like, yeah, you can blow up at them, but you don't know if they've just gone through a divorce, if they've just found a suicide note from their child, like, and that's been massive. Just for me, it's kind of hard to maybe pass that lesson on without really experiencing it, but that's why I say, like, I can't identify one particular memorable or there's not one that's more special than the other. They've all added to just lessons that I've learned and hopefully been able to maybe teach other people as well through the Tough Yarns project.
I think that's something that I've definitely been doing a lot more of recently, is what you were saying, is realizing that you actually don't know how much is going on in someone else's life. So yeah, someone might flip out at you or someone might act in a certain way, but you don't know what's gone on. And I guess that's came to me a bit more through my own experiences of being in the gym and being injured.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a reasonably big person, hence the name of the Big Lab podcast. There's been times where I've been injured in the gym and lifting what would be small weights because I'm sort of recovering through an injury. And then there's people sort of looking at, you see it every now and again, people looking over going, oh, is he only lifting that much?
Yeah.
I'm like, you don't know that I've got no ACL in my knee. I've got no meniscus and this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
And I think that thought then made me realize sort of into day-to-day life where you may not understand what someone's going through and what's causing the reaction that you're getting. So it's almost like, don't take it personally that someone's maybe been a bit snappy at you. Because like you said, they could have had a divorce. They could be going through anything.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the analogies are a little bit different. I think what other people are doing, you're right, is kind of none of your business. You know, I'm the same as you. When I first started in the gym, I think I ended up squatting 150 and deadlifting 180. I do reps of 40 kilo. I might put 60 kilo on a bar for 5 with a squat now, and it's like my ego is fine with that on the basis that, you know, come for a 24-hour run and we'll see what happens then. So it's all relative, and that's why there's no judgment in regards to what other people are doing there. I guess what I'm pointing out maybe, and it's not to justify any not bad behavior, but it's not to justify being a dick. I don't know what language I can use on this podcast.
No, go for it. Anything goes.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's not to justify anybody being a dick, but it is just to give people the awareness that you've got no idea what someone else is going through. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, you just can't take it personally, can you? At times.
Mhm.
And yeah, especially with strangers. It may be a bit different with people that you know, and maybe even still to that extent, you may only see a surface level of things. But how do you believe sort of engaging in these sort of challenges and setting yourself out on this 100 days affects both the participants and the viewers then in terms of mental health? You've obviously mentioned that people are opening up a little bit more, but what is the sort of message you're getting back from it?
People are just inspired to have conversations. I've had a large number of, I remember one of the early ones that I got was a guy who had fought with his sister 4 years earlier and not spoken to her since, and had the inspiration to reach out and rekindle that relationship just because of me asking people to jump in cold water, which that's pretty cool. I think, the likes and shares and comments and all of that sort of stuff are cool, but are really, I could forego all of them in exchange for the kind of private messages that I get from people who just reached out and said that they're more confident having a conversation with their wife or husband or parents or kids around stuff. And that's pretty cool. Yeah, I think the impact has been big. I don't know my head in the sand around the fact that I am, well, we are making change. And I say we because there's me and there's the 150 people that have got in the lake with me. It's definitely a team effort. Yeah. I'm not too sure if that answers your question.
No, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you find that, especially the people that obviously get in the lake with you, do you find it's almost like a comfort in a stranger? Because quite often we can find it difficult to speak to the people closest to us, but then open up to essentially a complete and utter stranger. Do you think there's a comfort in that for them?
I think so. I think I've just realised that I've missed an entire part of Tough Yarns, and maybe we haven't dived into it, or maybe we will because it's not public. Is I only record the swim, and there's a reason for that. I've had many a people reach out, many a person, English anyway, many a person reach out and ask for the coffee chats because I almost always go and enjoy a coffee with someone afterwards. There's two reasons I don't post that. There's two reasons I don't even record that. One is I've done the hard part. I've asked someone to step outside their comfort zone and do something. It's now the viewer's turn to go and ask someone for a coffee and have their own coffee conversation. The second point is that the conversations that I have over that coffee are often pretty deep, and I can almost assure you that if I had a camera going, they wouldn't happen. And I think there's two reasons for that. One is I'm a complete stranger. Maybe there's a certain level of trust there, but also two, I'm pretty vulnerable myself, and maybe it's just a certain level of, hey, I don't actually really, like you say, I don't really care what other people think anymore. But it's that level of vulnerability that enables people to open up. Case in point, I was driving with a friend within the last week, and they had recently kind of been through some counselling and some stuff, and I was asking them some questions about their experience, and I could tell that they were not sharing everything, and I didn't need to know anything. I was just curious, and so I just noticed it at the time, and I just shared my own experience with my own counsellors and my own coaching and what I'd been through and what I'd discovered. And pretty quickly, they were happy to actually tell a lot more than they'd initially had. And I say a few times, I've said a few times on the Tough Yarns project, like one conversation inspires another. If you feel like someone's going through something, maybe don't just ask, hey, what's wrong? What's the problem? Like, yeah, ask, check in, but if you feel like there's something that they might need to get off their chest, show vulnerability first, because that's been massive in enabling people to feel comfortable in opening up themselves.
It's almost like a mutual trust, isn't it? Sort of, I'm going to put something on the table, so then they'll put something on the table in return.
Yeah, 100%. And it's just giving them some cards to hold. So it's like, oh, if this guy runs off with my cards and shows them to the world, at least I can show his. Like, obviously, that's not, we're still friends. So I think there's trust that that's not going to happen, but it's kind of maybe
It makes them feel a bit more comfortable, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
And obviously, like you say, those conversations that you're having around a coffee table, they might not want the world to know through
for sure.
Instagram.
Yeah.
So just thinking about it then, so how is having these conversations with these people affecting you as a person and your mental health? Are you, I don't know, feeling a certain type of way after having some of these deep conversations with people?
Uh, yes. I mean, I like I say, I enjoy it. I've been through so much stuff myself, and I'm not sure if you want to get into that at all or not. But
It's entirely up to you. Entirely.
yeah, I mean, not necessarily. I guess just yeah. Yeah, I've been through so much stuff myself that I'm in the last 6 months, I've just, with the help of a coach, or my coach, who's actually my cousin as well, which is massively beneficial because he kind of understands my family dynamics a little bit more as well. I've been able to get through a lot of stuff, and so I have, tried to kind of pass that forward. Sorry, I've forgotten your question. I guess, just in regards to being with people is just that presence. There's no real end result for me. Sometimes I actually feel a little bit bad and wonder if maybe they think that I'm just using them to get clicks. More often than not, the people that I feel bad about actually message me after the fact and say, hey, thank you, keep doing what you're doing, and just relieves a little bit of anxiety of my own, thinking, I hope they don't think that I'm using them, kind of things. So, yeah.
Yeah, the question was, the deeper conversations that Instagram doesn't see, sort of people telling you the sort of deepest sort of thoughts and things that are going on, how that affects you mentally. Do you feel like almost like a weight of it at times? Because there's so many of these deep conversations that you're continually having. How is it affecting you sort of mentally? Are you leaving these things feeling, I don't know, not burdened? That's probably the wrong word. Sort of, do you feel a certain way after having the conversation?
No, I feel pretty good. I feel like I've made a new friend. There was definitely a moment in time where Tough Yarns had massive traction for maybe 10 days or something. It went from, I think in one night we got like 7,000 new followers or something like that. It was pretty big. And at that time I got a lot of messages saying thank you. But I also got quite a few talking about people struggling with self-harm and suicidal thoughts and those sorts of things. And I know it's a little bit different to the swimmers, but just when you mentioned burden, there was a period of time where I was really struggling to deal with that for a few days. And then I just realized that there's not actually a huge amount I can do other than maybe point them in a direction that could help them. And it's pretty similar with the people that I go swimming with as well. It's just, I've never walked away feeling worse, put it that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I was just thinking because at my work we have like mental health first aiders, and there's a big thing on the mental health of the actual mental health first aider. Obviously, some people may open up in really sort of dark ways, I guess, and sometimes, like you mentioned, there's people who are suicidal, and it's the mental health first aider actually being able to deal with not the weight of that, but like someone opening up and talking about it. Like, are they going to be okay to be sort of as a support there? So I was just making sure from your side of things that it's not becoming like a big sort of weight on your shoulders almost.
No, like I said, it did a little bit, but it did for a little bit, but definitely not anymore. Hats off to people who work in that industry. I'm by no means a professional. I'm very transparent about that. But people who work in psychology and counseling, like, to be able to leave that at the door when they get home must be challenging at least. kind of thing. So yeah, there's obviously a certain element of being able to do that, but then also making sure that they've got the people around them to be able to converse with and I guess compare notes, for better choice of words.
Yeah, definitely. So with obviously a lot of it being around mental health, and there's a stigma around men, especially opening up about mental health. What sort of split are you finding it with the people that jump in terms of male and female? Is it 50-50? Is it skewed one way or the other, or?
Probably like 90% men, but I don't think that's actually anything to do with the mental health aspect. I think it's purely or almost purely to do with logistics.
Right.
So, women getting into their underwear and swimming in a lake completely unprepared is highly unlikely because oftentimes they're not wearing clothes which would be suitable for swimming, whereas blokes 9 times out of 10 are just wearing jocks and they're like, yeah, sweet as, I can go for a swim,
Yeah.
it's all good. And I noticed that quite quickly I started taking some shorts with me, some shorts and a t-shirt just for ladies who did want to get in. There was a pretty quick turnaround to how many ladies were getting in. So yeah, more recently it's started to balance out. But I think if it was logistics aside, it'd be pretty close to 50-50. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair enough. It's just I've done a few podcasts on especially men's mental health. That's one of the parts of this podcast, which it's sort of men's mental health, personal growth, and things like that, which are the main sort of topics. So obviously, I don't know what it's like in New Zealand, but in the UK, there's a massive stigma about men opening up and
For sure.
showing that vulnerable side of things. So yeah, I was just wondering what the sort of split is, but it does make sense in terms of
Yeah.
the logistics of what you're doing in
Yeah.
terms of jumping into a lake. Yeah, lads are a bit more easygoing. They'll just jump in the boxes.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things to touch on there, and one I'd love to maybe jump into the men's mental health a little bit, but also the fact that Tough Yarns is not primarily a mental health cause, if that makes sense. It's just encouraging people to do difficult things. And then when it comes to men's mental health, but also mental health in general and the difficult things, one of the things that I've recently kind of been thinking about is one of the reasons as to why, especially men's mental health is so prevalent, or men's mental illness is so prevalent. And I don't know if you're happy to do a quick kind of
definitely. Yeah.
tangent, because I can imagine you could speak to it quite a bit based on the conversations that I've heard you have on this podcast. But one of the big things, or two of the big things possibly, one is motivation. And motivation, and I was trying to remember where it came from, so I had to do some quick chat GPTing this morning to just remind myself as to where I might have read it. But motivation is ingrained in human psyche to help us find food, shelter, warmth. And we don't need those things. They're right here. I got a heater going. I got my coffee. Like, I've just had food. We probably spend half an hour of our day thinking about food, shelter, warmth now. Whereas 2,000 years ago, it was 16 hours of our day was spent doing that. And that's why motivation is ingrained in what we do. So when people say they lack motivation, like, we don't necessarily need it. And I think that's one of the reasons that mental health or mental illness is so prevalent. The second thing, especially for men, have you done any study on like any of the San Bushmen or any of the tribes in Africa or anything like
No.
that?
No.
So they have very intense rites of passage to become a man. I think the San Bushmen, they have to put their face, they have to paint mud on their face and let it dry, and then they have to basically crawl through bullet ants from memory. And if the paint or if the mud cracks, then it means that they've showed emotion or they've winced, and so they fail their rite of passage. That's kind of been ingrained in men for thousands of years, that we've always had this rite of passage that we took between becoming, going from boy to man. And I was talking to someone the other day who was having a conversation who they'd spent time in Africa, and they were talking about what it's like to become a man in our society. It's like you turn 18.
Yeah.
It's like,
You go to the pub.
what? Exactly. That's what
Buy your
they
first
said.
legal pint.
Yeah, exactly. They said that word for word as well. It's like, yeah, we just, turn 18, we go to the pub, we're a man. And I think there's something in us which needs a rite of passage. And the reason that a lot of us are struggling is because we don't have it. And in the same breath, I think that's also the reason that why the likes of High Rocks and Ironman and ultramarathons and Tough Mudders have just like profited massively, because it's kind of an opportunity to maybe prove yourself a little bit. And yeah, that's my quick side tangent. I thought it might speak to a little bit about what you've spoken about on this podcast a few times.
Find a lot of it is about having purpose, and what you were saying about the high rocks and things like that, it's something to aim for, it's something to train towards, and it gives you a bit of purpose, not to necessarily live day to day, but it becomes part of a routine, becomes like you end up dedicated to a certain event.
Mm-hmm.
You've got something that's, I don't know, 3 months, 6 months in the future yourself. You're doing quite a lot of events yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So I find purpose is the key thing, but then there's a lot I think social media doesn't help with it all, is the stigma around just opening up and showing a vulnerable side. As men, we're brought up to be strong and we don't cry and this, that and the other, and I think that obviously goes through life, and you never really come out of that until you actually show a bit of vulnerability and admit that you might not be okay, and using your support networks and opening up, and then having those difficult conversations like you're trying to push. It's obviously not all around mental health, but that leads into a mental health conversation eventually further
Absolutely.
down the line.
Yeah. Yeah, vulnerability is the biggest show of strength, I think, which is ironic, right? Because everybody thinks that vulnerability is weakness. I think it's quite the opposite. Just to touch on your purpose you mentioned there. Have you've read any of Eckhart Tolle's books?
Haven't.
The Power
There's
of
a lot
Now,
of things you're
or
bringing up that I've not looked at, and I'm going to have to make a note of these afterwards and have a look
I
through.
feel like we could go back and forth. Like I say, listening to some of your podcasts on happiness and purpose and stoicism and those sorts of things. There's a lot of stuff that I've read, and it's made me realize how much I have read over the last 10 years. But it's funny actually, because it links perfectly into what I was kind of going to get into in regards to purpose. I've never been one of those read 10 books a day. Like I read maybe a book a month, maybe.
You're doing better than me.
If that, yeah. But it's always just been like over the last 10 years, I've just realized that there's been a lot of them. So, Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, I referenced on the Tough Yarns yesterday. But to jump into your purpose, I've just finished reading Eckhart Tolle's A New Earth, and he kind of talks about your purpose and it being like your primary purpose is to be present. That's it. Secondary purpose can be the goals that you've got and those sorts of things. But one of the things that he pointed out was like to be present and to enjoy the moment is one thing. Enthusiasm comes from enjoying what you do with it having an end goal attached to it. And I really liked that. And I think, especially when it comes to the likes of, I think we can both relate quite well to, you've done a High Rocks?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've done one with a friend and it was...
Same.
Yeah. It was kind of a last minute decision anyway. It was good fun. But like the training I was able to enjoy, and we had this end goal. I think way too many people have this purpose, this end goal, if it's, for example, a High Rocks, but maybe they don't necessarily enjoy the process. And I think that is where it becomes a little bit unhealthy. And if people can find an outer purpose, is kind of what Eckhart Tolle called it, which is that long-term goal is an outer purpose, and still live to their inner purpose and enjoy the present whilst working towards that goal, then the world could be a much better place.
I think that links very well into intrinsic and extrinsic motivations as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're not intrinsically motivated to do something, you're not going to enjoy the end product. Like you say, you enjoy the journey of getting to that High Rocks, and then you have that end goal that you go and enjoy because you've spent 6 months training for it.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
it's funny because you've mentioned happiness and presence, and then obviously you never were you saying it's Alex Hormozy who was saying that if you always say that you're going to be happy when you achieve the next goal, you're never going to be happy? Was it?
I think it's Alex Hormozy, yeah.
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 Um. Yeah, it's so true. Like you always kind of get to that end goal, and you're like, okay, what next? I only have one exception in my life, which the goal took me 8 years to complete, and it's still one of my proudest moments because purely of the amount of attempts that I had at it, the time spent, the like 8 years of my life was kind of just working towards this one particular goal, and I finally achieved it in November, and that's that's one thing that's
And
actually
what was
brought me
that?
happiness. Have you heard of World's Toughest Mudder?
Yes. Is that the 24-hour Tough Mudder
Yeah, yeah,
where you got to see how many loops you can do?
correct. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So in 2016, I did my first World's Toughest Mudder. I ran 75 miles in 24 hours with not a huge amount of experience, and that was when I realized that I'm really good at just suffering, and I kind of enjoy it. And I set myself a goal in 2016 of running 100 miles at World's Toughest Mudder. And in November 2024, I ran it. And that is still to this day one of my, and not because, I mean, the actual thing was awesome. But also I forego fifth place to finish the course with a friend of mine who got me into it, or kind of helped me at least start in it. And I think that was like the epitome of I was not doing this for a result or for a place. The 100 miles, absolutely, that was what I was there for. But like in regards to placings or anything like that, it was kind of an accidental foregoing. Hunter and I agreed to cross the finish line together, and I dropped the flag and he crossed the finish line just as I went to pick it up. So he actually got fifth.
Right. Okay.
Anyway, but as you can
Well,
tell, it's like, man, it's there's no, yeah, I'm stoked with everything that happened. So yeah,
yeah, that says it all, doesn't it? You going across the finish line with your mate means so much more to you than
100%.
finishing in whatever position it was. Would you have done it if it would have been the difference between first and second?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Just checking.
If I happened to be there, I probably would have left my mate and been like, all right, second place right behind me. Because I knew that Hunter was coming up behind me, and I was talking to Sue, my friend. And I was like, sixth place is coming up behind me. She's like, you go ahead and do it. I was like, nah, we're finishing this together. We got this. And then Hunter ended up joining us, and we all crossed the finish line together. But I
I
dropped
love
the
it.
flag just as we were crossing, so he technically crossed it first. But yeah, no, if it was first or second, I probably would have been, yeah, sorry, Sue. See you later. We'll see you at the finish line.
See you in a bit. Yeah. I'll come back for you.
I mean, there's money on the line for first and second, right? Fifth and sixth is like, it's
Yeah. You might
yeah,
yeah.
fugazi,
Not a big
fugazi, but
difference. Yeah.
yeah, exactly, yeah,
No, I love it.
yeah.
There was something that you said just before about um, enjoying the moment, and that's something that I have been trying to do a lot more in the last probably year or two, because I have been that sort of person where I hit a goal and then I'm like, right, what's the next thing?
What
And I've
next?
been trying to be present and celebrate in the moment. So I was gifted an expensive bottle of champagne for passing my management accountancy qualification.
Mhm.
I didn't have it at the time. Like I got it a little bit after. So I think I passed my exams in the January. I got it maybe the end of February or something like that. So I was like, the moment's gone. I won't have it now. And it literally on my desk where I work at every day, it just sat there in a box. And I thought, oh, I've got to do something cool to be able to drink it.
Yeah,
And it got to the point where I got a new job at the end of last year. I'd had an interview, got the job. I thought, right, I'm just going to have it. So cooked a nice steak, sat on the couch, had an expensive bottle of champagne, watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine in a pair of
yeah,
trackies.
nice. Yeah,
I just thought, I've got to start enjoying my achievements, and because I wasn't doing it.
yeah, yeah,
And yeah, like you say, being present, enjoying the moment, celebrating your achievements before then moving on to the next thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Just yeah, living in the moment. for sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I think
sometimes
it's massive.
it's really difficult. I was really tired. I was having a conversation with someone who came swimming with me the other day, and I was like, it's kind of ironic because it's not technically presence if you're trying to be present, but
Yeah. You're
that
almost
was,
forcing it.
yeah, but I was, and I was like, do you know what? I'm better off forcing it than thinking about sleep. Like, I'm better off at least kind of listening to this person, even if it takes every inch of my being to be like, hey, I'm here with you now. And the cool thing about that is that when you've got a little bit of energy, it actually makes it a hell of a lot easier. So
Yeah, getting a little wake up call in some cold water
yeah,
definitely wakes you up a little bit.
for sure.
So just going back to then the tough yarns, you said you were going to go to 100 days. What's the plan from here? Are you going to carry on do them every day?
I'm not going to do them every day, and yeah, I think I maybe buried myself a little bit deep. I invested a little bit too much into committing to 100 days, but I'm stoked that I did, even though I kind of missed 2 days of swimming with strangers, but then I made up for it anyway. So I'm just going to do it now as I feel inspired to do it. Ironically, I have a habit, so the chances of that being regularly are strong. I'm doing a massive mission this weekend where New Zealand, Otago, where I live, Queenstown, has 4 major ski fields: Remarkables, Coronet, Cardrona, and Treblecone. And a friend and I are going to ride our bikes and ski tour to the summit of those 4 major ski fields. So that'll probably be maybe, if I had to guess, somewhere between 8,000 and 9,000 meters of elevation over the weekend.
Wow.
So that could be a mission, but both of us are pretty...
Similar to Everest, I guess.
Hopefully more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. We might even... Oh, actually, no, it almost definitely will be more because I just realized there's still the access road. Or like anyway, yeah, it'll probably be more than Everest, yeah. Yeah, so that'll be fun. And then next week I might do some swimming, and then I got a couple of mountain bike races coming up where I'm going to be, asking people to do the distance longer than they've entered for, which is a fun little psychological, I think, thing because they're mentally prepared for X distance. And did you see the one from the weekend where I asked Jody and James to run?
The run through the mountains.
Yeah.
Where you went. Yeah, that looked cool.
Yeah. Yes, that was pretty awesome. I had a little bit of, it was my first, like, you shouldn't ask people to do something like that in fear of injury. And the irony is that Jody, out of myself and Jess, who was actually with us, she's actually my flatmate, and she'd trained specifically for that event. And obviously I've done some stuff. Ironically, Jody, who was not mentally prepared for that event, was the strongest out of the 3 of us. So that's
Wow.
that was pretty cool. But yeah, I wouldn't push anybody beyond what I think they're capable of. And luckily, having been in the game for nearly a decade, and obviously, having done a lot of research myself, I'm pretty comfortable and confident in my ability to be able to pick people based on what I think they're capable of, if that makes sense.
Yeah, knowing who can be pushed further than what they are there to
I'm
be
not going
doing.
to ask you with no ACL to run 32Ks without any training kind of thing.
This is the thing. So anything in a straight line for me is absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Anything changing direction, then we've potentially got some problems.
Race Tekapor the entire thing was,
Right.
not good for an ACL.
Well, the thing is, so I've climbed Mount Snowdon 4 times with no ACL. I've done Scarfell Pike with no ACL. So I've done plenty of mountains. It's literally changing directions at sort of 90 degrees. Anything sort of uneven doesn't seem to bother it that much.
Mm-hmm.
And I've just got back into running again. I've only been sort of running 4K because I am quite heavy. I can't lie. I'm 107 kilos.
Wow.
So there's
How
a bit
tall
of
are
weight.
you?
6'4".
Yeah, okay.
So there's a
Because
lot
you're
of
obviously not like, you're probably on the BMI obese because the BMI, I'm obese and I'm...
Yeah, I think I'm top end of overweight or something like that, yeah.
Yeah, BMI is madness, don't get me started. But you're fit, obviously. I can't remember what I was going to ask something. Anyway, sorry, carry on.
Yeah, no, I was just saying I've recently started running again because I had sort of 2 or 3 months out the gym recently where I was basically just burnt out. I was doing too much. I was trying to balance too many plates and just literally fell out of love with the gym for a little bit. And then I've just got back. So I was going to enter the British Indoor Rowing Championships
Yeah, cool.
in December, which I entered back in 2023. I used to row back in high school and college. I had like GB trials
6'4"
twice.
of muscle. I can understand why. You'd probably be pretty good at it.
I'd entered back in 2023. I trained for like 8 weeks and came 10th in the country,
Struth.
which wasn't too
Cool.
bad.
Yeah.
I was going to enter last year, did my knee again in the October, so I couldn't. So I thought, all right, I'm going to go for it this year. And then it got to the point where I just burnt out. I was trying to do too many things. I was trying to train for an event that I couldn't really do because I wasn't in a routine of actually being in the gym. So it was pointless for me to try and then put the added pressure on training for an event. So I've got to the point where I just want to get generally fit again and just put no pressure on it. I go in the gym, get my workouts done.
Enjoy the process.
Couple of runs a week. So I'd been doing 4Ks recently. And then last weekend, it was raining. And I just thought, I'm going to go out for a run. No time pressure, no distance or whatever. Fell into a nice 5-minute 45K pace. And ended up doing 10K. And I've
epic.
literally never done 10K on my own ever.
Yeah.
in the 29 years I've been on the planet, other than a 10K race for life event, and I did a half marathon that I didn't train for a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Other than that, I've never run 10K.
Cool.
Thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm tempted to do another one this weekend.
Yeah. I think just enjoy it. And if you go out to do 10K and you get to 5K and you're like, this sucks, then don't. But if you
that's the beauty of it. Like, I'm not putting the pressure on myself at the moment to train for something. I'm too busy with work. I've got a lot of stuff on with like podcasts, and I've actually have 2 podcasts. I run another one with my mates. About football. So
okay.
That one's
being
been a little
like soccer football.
Yes, yeah,
proper football.
Yes.
Just checking.
Yeah, we're all Liverpool fans. So
yeah.
It's pretty good at the moment being a Red.
Is it? I don't follow it, but
I know. Yeah, we're top of the league, and we won the league last season as well.
Yeah,
so
cool.
Started a podcast in the summer, but it's been a bit quiet recently because we've all been busy. A few of them have got kids, so that one's been a little bit quiet.
Yeah.
But,
have you heard of Ben Patrick, the knees over toes guy?
Yes.
Yeah. Have you done any of his stuff?
I've tried bits. I've had really good physios in the past, so I've kind of just carried on doing what they were doing.
Yeah.
I have seen some of his stuff, and I think it's more for people that have had the ACL operation, which I haven't.
Okay. Yeah, I wonder.
Because I find a few bits sort of irritate it a little bit.
Yeah, really.
On what it is. Yeah.
My cousin, he's actually 6'4", 110 kilo of pure muscle, played rugby. Very, very close to making the All Blacks, ended up playing in Japan for a couple of years. And he had 2 ACLs and a meniscus, and started the knees over toes program, and said that he'd, his knees were the strongest they'd felt since he was 18.
I think I might circle back to it, but like I say, I think it's if you've had the ACL operation, you've obviously got that extra support there.
Yeah.
I've been told, so I've had, I think, 3 MRIs. The latest one was earlier this year. They said it hadn't got much worse than the previous one a couple of years before that. And they said, because there's a lot of muscle mass and I have no issues with stability, and I have no meniscus left to protect. So they said we'd do the ACL operation if you had meniscus to protect and if you were having stability issues. But they said you don't have stability issues and you have no meniscus left. So there's no real point of doing it.
Yeah.
I was like,
interesting.
Okay. So it was down the rehab route again, which it's okay. Like, I'm back. Well, the first time I did a proper knee rehab was I was doing legs 3 days a week in the gym. I did that for 5 months straight. And the main issue I had was finding shorts and trousers that fit my legs, because I had to put about 1 inch or 2 on my quads and 2 inches on sort of my glutes as well. So literally nothing fit.
Yeah.
It's like I've
tights.
essentially got like a fat man's legs without a fat man's waist.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
It's a tough problem to have. Yeah.
it really is. Like I can't lie, it really is. I go shopping and often come home with nothing.
I used to blow out when I was training. I used to blow out suit pants. I ended up wearing Lululemon pants. I rate them. I don't know if they would fit, but
I might have to have a look.
have you not
Yeah.
tried them?
No, no, I've
Ah,
not.
game changer.
Yeah, I've got a few mates who have sort of suggested pants before, and I'm like, I don't think you realize how much bigger my legs are than yours.
Yeah.
That
Try.
it
I
just,
mean, yeah, Lululemon because they stretch and yeah, they're
yeah,
pretty good. Yeah,
I'll have to give
yeah,
them a go.
for sure.
Um, so just circling back to tough yarn, so we've
Yeah,
gone way
yeah,
off track
yeah.
there.
I did warn you right at the start.
I don't mind it. I like
Yeah.
going off on tangents. It's usually the best conversations.
Off trail is my favorite place to run, so I'm
I've
just
noticed.
keeping it
I've noticed.
true across the board.
So with the content, then, are you purely going to stick to shorter form content, or are you going to potentially move to things like podcasts or YouTube?
So I'm when I get 5 minutes going to turn last week's run into a long format video. I think I've got about 2.5 hours of footage, including an interview with James and Jody. So I'm really excited to put that into something. Yeah, I turned 2.5 hours of footage into 2 3-minute reels.
That is some effort. That
It
is,
was, and I'm quite lazy when it comes to editing. I literally just cut out anything that I don't think is relevant and then just try and 3 minutes
I'm
done,
very
sweet.
similar.
Yeah. So we'll
Yeah.
see. Either it's going to be way too long or it's going to be really average, or I don't know. We'll find out. But yeah, maybe I'll give myself a time limit of 10, 15 minutes or something to put something towards. So yes, I'll be doing long format of some stuff. I might be doing a documentary, hopefully, of the Movember project, which I'll be announcing publicly on the 1st of October. Maybe if I can get funding for it, but we'll figure something out either way. And podcasts, I've had a lot of people recommend it. Who knows? We'll see.
So
I
there's
mean,
nothing
it's
necessarily in the pipeline for it, but
no.
you're open.
Other than it seems to have a good name for a podcast. Tough Yarns just seems to roll
No, I
into.
like
I don't
it.
know.
How did you actually come up with the name?
Oh, I think I was looking for something to just fill a gap. So I filmed the first Tough Yarn swimming with Charlie, who was the first guy who came swimming with me, before I had anything. I didn't have a social media page. Like, I just went and filmed it and then came back. I think I did the editing and I was like, all right, I suppose I better make some pages for this to go on. And I think I was looking at difficult conversation. I was just looking for something along the lines of that. Yeah, Tough Yarn. And I was looking for something that was available on kind of the 4 major social media platforms. And I think Tough Yarns just kind of came out, and I shot myself in the foot a little bit because Americans don't know what a yarn is. And so I've had a few people go, "What's a yarn?" It's a conversation starter at least. So
Yeah.
that was there was no. I think one of the things that I've really tried to live true to is perfect is the enemy of good. And even with the logo, which we've just designed, it's like hand-drawn squiggles. Like, the idea is to literally make it as rough around the edges as possible. And I think that's because I just, in the editing style, it's like cut out anything that's not necessary, get CapCut to automate the voice or the sound leveling, automate the captions. I'll make sure that the names are spelled correct, and it's actually mistranslated some not swear words into some pretty rough swear words, which is
Really?
So I've had to like edit those out.
AI is not quite fully there.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just making sure that everything's above board and then post. So yeah, it's the epitome of perfect is the enemy of good. And a part of me was kind of wondering why it was taking off. And then I spent 24 hours on the bike last week. Yeah, last week. And I remembered, that was when I was listening to your podcasts. I remembered Simon Sinek's kind of golden circle. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And that was when I was like, it's got nothing to do with the quality of the content. It's got to do with the content of the content.
Yes.
Yeah,
No,
rings.
exactly that. Something that I've spoke about quite a few times is in terms of people waiting for the perfect moment, and the perfect moment will never come if you're constantly waiting for it.
Yeah.
You're better off just getting out there and learning along the way. Like if you look back at my fitness account, you can scroll back all the way to 2018. There is some awfully edited stuff back then.
Yeah.
But I've left, like, I know a lot of people that have gone back through and deleted the stuff that they're maybe a little bit embarrassed about, but I've just left it because I can go back and I can see the journey of the content getting better over time. I don't post as much fitness content as I used to do because I just started getting bored of posting the same workouts. But I think
you were talking to what was your mate from Aussie? What was his name?
Josh.
Josh, yeah, you alluded to a lot of that stuff in the podcast with him. So,
yeah, it's definitely just do it and learn on the job. Essentially, is the message. Don't wait for that perfect moment because it's never going to come. And it goes the same with the perfect content. You'll always be your worst critic. So you could probably sit there and look through some of the posts you've put up and go, "Oh, I wish I could have done that better. I could have said that." But for us, the viewers, we've not seen what's going on in your head. You've just put it out there, and we enjoy what's getting put up there, and it's relatable. I think I've noticed actually quite a lot recently. I've been watching a few YouTube videos on certain creators, and there seems to be a shift, especially in longer form content, where things are going back to a less polished sort of look.
Yeah.
And it is just people these days now picking like you're doing, like grabbing a GoPro, speaking, and there's no fancy B-roll, there's no transitions and cuts to other videos and speaking over things. It seems to be going back to the good old days, I'd say, in terms of just raw content.
I live, like, I don't know if I can show that.
Wow.
But like,
that looks incredible.
They're called the Remarkables for a reason. Ironically, it's not because they look. But like, I live right next to or in kind of the center of the location that Lord of the Rings was filmed. If you want good quality content, go watch Lord of the Rings. I'm never going to edit videos and color correct and do makeup in the same way that Peter Jackson can do. Why even, like, if I'm not even going to get 10% of the way there, why try? You know what I mean? That's why I'm like, sweet, I'm just going to stick it out. And I mean, I never expected it to take off in the way that it has, but yeah, I think you're right. People like that kind of raw, just, it is what it is. And like I say, people are just there for the content, and sometimes there's something there that just adds a little bit of an element to it. Like there's one video that had a ton of seagulls, and people have just not stopped reminding me of the seagulls on Queenstown Beach. And it's like, that's the sort of stuff that if you waited for it to be, it's like, okay, get all the seagulls away, take the chips. It's like, then it just actually takes away from the content. So yeah, just start. That's comes back to that presence, right? Like I've done a content creation course, and I was like, right, I need the microphones, I need the camera, I need the light. And then I did this big course, and I spent 6 months like, all right, what am I going to do it on? And then it was Stan just being like, I used to ask people to swim in the lake, and I was like, yeah, sweet, camera. Hey, will you come swimming with me? Yeah, okay, then why not? Bam, done. Like that
makes me laugh because I'm looking at like a ring light, a light there. I've got a light over here and a light behind me, but
yeah, it has its time and place for sure. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I put up a salt lamp just to maybe make my face look a little bit nicer. Like, it's not like I'm not going to try, but I'm not going to try to. It's the 80-20 rule, right? Like, I'm going to do the 20% that gets the 80% of the results, but the last 20%, go away. Leave me alone. I just want to live my life.
I was actually watching, have you heard of James Smith, the PT guy?
See, told you you'd get me on one.
So he's from the UK, lives in Australia. So he started as a PT, and he sort of, I guess in a way, has revolutionized the way PTs work. He was one of the first probably to go online and make it big off online coaching.
Yeah.
He's got a really big online presence, and he's got Well, he did have a podcast. I think he's bringing that back. He's got 2 separate YouTube channels. One of them is a more business focused one. I was actually watching a video of him today talking about neck training. So he does Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So he was comparing a $20 sort of neck brace thing that you attach a weight to
Mm-hmm.
and train your neck. He
Yep.
also had bought $1,000 one.
Yeah.
And he was basically saying, similar to what you've just said, this $20 one has got me 80% of the results.
Yeah.
I've spent $1,000 to get the other 20. And it's basically, he said, if you've got more money than sense, then get the $1,000 one. But if you've got $20, get the $20 one because it'll get you most of the way there. And I think that's too many people try and focus on the intricate details of literally anything when if you do and put a lot of effort into maybe the main 5 things, you will get most of the way there.
Yep. 100%. Yeah, I mean, unless you're, I don't know any BJJ athletes, but unless you're Conor McGregor or Nate Diaz, like you don't need to spend $1,000 on it. Like, or, Lewis Hamilton or, I don't know, Kimi Räikkönen. I can't think of any athletes that actually need neck training other than Formula One drivers and fighters. Like, unless you're a professional fighter or a professional Formula One driver, the $20 thing's going to be fine. It's the same with cyclists, and I'm shooting myself in the foot here because I'm also a weight weenie when it comes to mountain biking. And I just love nice stuff, but it's more of a passion. Like I'm not trying to do it because of the ego. I love my bike and I love putting new things on it, which is cool. But yeah, it's the epitome. It's the same with the gym, right? It's like you could go and do all of these fancy little glute things or you could just go and do a couple of kettlebell swings and some squats. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
maybe, yeah.
Like I look around the gym sometimes and I'm like, why are you doing that? Like, there's some workouts and I'm like, you could go to the gym and do the same 15 to 20 exercises for the rest of your life and be absolutely fine. But everyone wants the latest Instagram trend or the weird one that might get a few more views. And I'm like, you're just being stupid. But it's like you were saying, like you could have got a load of cameras, mics, lights, but you've got that big mountain out the back of your house. You could literally walk up the side of a hill, put your camera on a 15-pound tripod and speak with that magnificent mountain behind you, and it'll get way more views than it would you sat in your room with all the lights.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. I was actually contemplating, it was a bit too early, but I was contemplating throwing my phone on a gimbal and actually doing this podcast walking with that in the background. But
that'd have been pretty cool, to be fair.
Yeah.
maybe another time. Maybe round 2.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, we'll have to just arrange the timing to be a little bit better.
Yes. Yeah, but I think that could be a content idea for you to literally just have the mountain in the background and talk.
I try to squeeze it into the tough yarns a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah. But like, I mean, like a longer form content, you just sitting there and telling us your thoughts, maybe how things are going.
Yeah, that's the thing that I struggle with is I guess maybe coming up with ideas. Like I say, I've read a lot of stuff and, I think there's so much to be taught through Stoicism and, so many lessons that I've learned through the adventure races and expeditions that I've done that have taught me what I know that I could hand on, which in a conversation, they just kind of flow. And I think I thrive for that human connection to be able to, and that's what I say, like when I'm on the camera, when I'm doing tough yarns and I'm talking to someone and on the camera, it just kind of flows and I can have that conversation. But as soon as I look at the camera, I'm just like, blank. Like
there is nothing harder than looking down the barrel of a camera. I've said it so many times. Like my brother often watches my podcast, especially my solo ones, and he's watched. So I used to do a bit of YouTube as well on a fitness account where I'd do some vlogs and just general holiday stuff. And he'd be like, "Why? Like you come across a little bit off because obviously he knows what I'm like in person. No one else really does unless they've met me." He says, you come across so differently when you're speaking to a camera. And I was like, you have no idea how weird it is to sit there, especially if you're like doing a solo podcast, sit there and look down the barrel of a camera.
Yeah.
Your mind just goes blank. And it comes from years of practice. Like, you get better over time just doing it. But I said the other day on an episode where I used to sit in the gym car park and post a story on my Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
It could take me 5 goes to get it right, because
Mm-hmm.
I'd be speaking, and then all of a sudden I'd be stuttering and like,
Yeah.
right, delete, we'll go again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally understand it. It is a skill in itself to just speak down the barrel of a camera and keep a
Mm-hmm.
conversation flowing. But that's also what editing's for as well. You can cut
Yeah.
out bits if you need to. You just,
Yeah.
I found some of my best podcasts where I've had no plan and just sat there and spoke.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there are times where I might break up a little bit. I might forget what I'm saying or the general direction. But like I say, you can cut stuff out, and it's about just carrying on the flow of whatever you're
Yeah.
trying to get across.
You can cut it out, but also, as we were just saying a minute ago, like, that imperfection is what makes it nowadays. I did 2 solo videos last week or whenever it was. Man, it feels like a lifetime ago. And I got into a lake, or into a river, sorry, to like kind of record them. And whilst I would have loved to have done multiple takes to maybe try and figure it out, I think me forcing myself into the river and talking to the camera whilst I was there took away from the ability to be able to do that. Because whilst I love cold water, I'm not getting into it 5 different times to get the right take. And I think that's actually quite cool, because it eliminates that excuse, or, you know, I would rather put something out that's 80% good, but just do it once, than have to try and do 5 takes. Because more often than not, I think for me, the more takes I get, the worse it gets. It's normally the first take or maybe the second, which ends up being the best anyway. So
Comes less authentic as well, doesn't it? Because you're forcing yourself into it. You're not doing it for the original reason that you're doing it. You're doing it to then get a better shot or a more polished
Yep.
version of it.
Yeah.
And if that's what it becomes, then like we were saying before, intrinsic and extrinsic motivations, if you're not enjoying the process of actually going to do it, and you're doing it for the sake of maybe growing your channel or getting more views and likes, then it starts to become less authentic over time, and people start to notice it as well.
Yeah, for sure. Now that I've hit day 100, I care a little bit less about how the content looks. And so last night my challenge was I went and swum, because I enjoy the swimming and I enjoy that part of it. The editing side of it is kind of the acceptable. I can accept that I have to do that to be able to publish it. And so I went and enjoyed the process of finding someone to swim and going for a swim and all that sort of stuff. And then when I sat down, I was like, all right, I want to see how fast I can edit this video. And I think it took me about 20 minutes, maybe 25 minutes to take 15, 20 minutes of content and turn it into a 2.5 minute reel. Just done. And I think that's quite cool. That's my
pretty
goal moving
impressive, to
forward.
be fair.
Well, that's the goal, is just to minimize that time spent. Because like I said, it's a chore for me. You know what I mean? Like, I'll do it and it's acceptable. And I know that I'll do it because I like the end product as well, and I want to inspire people. That's where that enthusiasm comes from. But it's at the same time, like, there's no point in doing the enjoyable part if I can't kind of put up with the acceptable part after. It's like cooking a delicious meal. You still have to do the dishes, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good point.
Yeah.
But
Like, you enjoy
you'll
the
know-
cooking, you enjoy eating it. You just have to do the dishes. Like, you know that that's there. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. There's some parts that you've just got to deal with, and it's similar with this podcast. Obviously, I think you've mentioned you've used Riverside before. So
Yeah, once, yeah. I mean, I haven't used it. I've been on a podcast
right,
with,
okay.
yeah.
So previously, I started this podcast going back to Perfect Moment. I actually started this podcast on my work's laptop with my work's headset.
Yeah.
On Zoom. So what I'd used to do is I'd download it, send it. Where did I send it to? I think I used to send it to my iPad, and then edit it in there and like cut up all the clips as well.
Mm-hmm.
So for me to actually edit a whole podcast, I'd have to watch it through maybe twice, edit the clips as well myself, and then get that uploaded.
Yeah.
Whereas I found this app, Riverside, where it'll AI clips for me. So it takes that element of it out for me.
Okay.
So after this podcast, I'll hit a button and say, I want them to be a certain length long. I want the conversations to be quick. So it'll cut out all the little pauses, like natural pauses, and just speed it up a little bit for social media. And then it'll go, right, here's 10 clips.
Yeah.
And that
Huh.
speeds the process up for me so much. Because then
Okay.
all I have to do, quickly review them, see what it's given me. And then I put that into YouTube for shorts, I put it on TikTok, and I put it on Instagram,
Mhm.
which is still a lot of work because I've still got to write captions 3 times or the same one and copy it across. But yeah,
That's the
scheduling
other
is,
thing is like the posting. I've got a notes app which just has asking strangers to do difficult things part 101 with a few hashtags, and I just copy and paste it and put it across all platforms. Like I say, the editing and publishing and everything, I just try to
yeah,
make as easy
that's
as
the bit I
possible.
don't like either. I don't like editing, I don't like scheduling.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can feel that pain, but like you said, it's something that you've just got to put up with and get
Mhm.
it done.
Yeah. Yeah. Accept it and enjoy it as much as you can. I think it was Bill Gates, maybe, who's an interesting character now, but who was mentioning about still doing the dishes even when he was, one of the world's richest men. He would still do the dishes because it was kind of a form of meditation. It was just his ability to be able to switch off and just clean the dishes, which I think is pretty cool and a good example of, yeah, just enjoying, maybe not enjoying, but accepting the chores. Like, unless you absolutely loathe it or you hate it, in which case, can you outsource it? But if it's just as something that it's like, okay, I just need to do this, at least accepting and not beating yourself up for the fact that you need to.
Yeah, I think the first moment that this podcast starts to make enough money that I can pay someone to do my editing and scheduling, it'll
Yeah.
definitely be happening. But
Outsource
for
it.
now,
Yeah,
I'll do the dirty work and
yeah,
put up with it.
yeah. Nice. Yeah.
But so just sort of rounding it up then. So you mentioned that you've got a announcement coming on the 1st of October for
Mhm.
your Movember challenge. Is there
Yeah.
anything else that we can expect from Tough Yarns coming up?
Uh, no idea. No, I may or may not give people the opportunity at some point to. So I've worked in coaching myself. I've taught sales for the last decade. I would say all over the world, but I haven't been to Europe teaching sales yet. I've been to North America, Australia, and New Zealand, and just teaching people how to, yeah, cold call basically. And so I've taken that skill set and applied it to teach people how to communicate. So teaching teenagers and young adults how to talk to each other, how to introduce themselves to each other, because with these things, phones for the listeners, um, people seem to have forgotten how to do that. So teaching body language, tone of voice, how to introduce yourself, how to, effective questioning, those sorts of things. And so I've been working with a school here in Queenstown. I've got a couple of people that I kind of work with online, and so I don't want to sell out on Tough Yarns, but I also think that there's a lot of people who are coming through that platform that could possibly benefit from, or maybe would enjoy some form of coaching. And so, I might at some point advertise that, but it wouldn't be, there will be in no way, shape, or form will I ever shove it down anyone's throat. That much I can guarantee. But yeah, like I say, long form content in regards to races and those sorts of things. I've got a few races coming up, which I'm excited to do with Tough Yarns. Similar to the race Merrill race Tekapō that happened on this weekend just been. And yeah, that's pretty much it. But I'm just taking it one day
Seeing
at a
where the wind
time.
blows.
Yeah. I never expected it to get to where it is now. So it's kind of it's constantly evolving, which is pretty exciting.
No, I can imagine. But just going back to what you were saying about especially younger people struggling with conversation, it is definitely sort of not a dying art or dying skill, but I guess it is in a kind of way where there are, I would say, teething issues with the younger generation, probably with conversation and communication. Everything's online, everything's through streaming and things like that. And I saw a clip of all people. Do you know H, the rapper from Manchester in the UK?
Yeah, I recognize the name. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was on a guy called Jamie Lang's podcast. You've
Hmm.
probably not heard of him either. He was on a reality TV show called Made in Chelsea, where I think it was Made in Chelsea, where basically a load of rich kids were on it.
Yeah.
But he now has a podcast. as he's grown up a bit older. But H was actually saying that he's noticed there's like less groups of like big groups of kids going out and just playing in a park. Because for me, growing up, especially in like high school, there used to be on a weekend, I would say anywhere between 50 and 100 people out on this college field where we'd just all be playing football, and we'd go to the shop. And I can understand it now. We were probably quite intimidating because we would literally fill the front of this shop. There would be like 50 to 100 of us outside the shop in the chip shop. So I could, now that I'm older, can sort of, it was probably a little bit intimidating, but literally don't see it anymore.
Yeah.
See the odd occasional group of kids like knocking around on bikes, but it's probably mainly thugs now on the electric bikes. I don't know if you have them in New Zealand. The sort of, we have a lot of kids with like balaclavas knocking around on them these days.
Yeah. We don't have that. I mean, we got kids who build little jumps out in the back. Like it's probably still a little bit more old school. And I live in Queenstown, which is a relatively safe place as well. So I think a lot of kids kind of get away with that. But yeah, you're bang on. I mean, I did a lot of sport as a kid, but I wasn't a sporty kid. I think internally I was a gamer, a bit of a nerd. I played a ton of RuneScape and I played a bit of Dota and stuff as well. And I was actually talking to someone on one of the Tough Yarns, which went viral, about LAN parties, and I created a hashtag which was Bring Back LAN Parties. I'm not sure if you were ever a gamer or not.
No, I wasn't really that big of a gamer. I had mates that were, but even they would still be out with us and then dart off early to go and game.
Well, so even I mean, that was probably similar to me as well. But when we gamed, we all went to one person's house and we got some pizza and we had a LAN party, and like that was gaming back in the day. And I actually had someone point out just a couple of days ago, he's like, he said something along the lines of, I'd wondered why gaming felt so cold nowadays. And I think it's because of that fact. This is what he was saying, or they were saying, that when we started gaming as 30-year-olds, it was like, you know, you had to connect your Game Boy to the other person's Game Boy to trade Pokemon kind of thing.
Yes. Yes, I played Pokemon when I was a kid.
You said, yeah, okay. So that was what you had to do. So you had to be there in person even to play games, whereas now everybody's just on Discord and people don't know how to read body language. One of the most fulfilling moments for me was I was teaching at this school here in Queenstown, and one of the kids loves ski touring. And he didn't say that he loved ski touring, but he was kind of just talking about it. And I was like, you really like ski touring, don't you? And he kind of just like, well, maybe when he was talking about ski touring, his chest went up and his kind of head came up a little bit. And I was like, you really like ski touring, don't you? He's like, how can you tell? And I was like, because of that. And he's like, really? Like, you can tell just from that and I'm like, yeah, A, I've had a lot of experience, but also B, I think maybe 20 years ago, most people probably couldn't be able to tell.
Read people's
like
actions.
When you get a bit more, elevated and excited, and you start speaking a bit quicker. Like 20 years ago, most people would have been able to tell that you're excited, and that's gone. Like people can't tell anymore what enthusiasm or excitement or frustration or anger or whatever it is. And it's like if I can maybe teach one person that and give them the tools that they need to be able to, especially, I mean, AI is amazing. Don't get me wrong. Like ChatGPT I use to write all of my emails. I did a little experiment where I got it knows me well enough and I had my CV. I was like, I just copy and pasted job adverts and said, can you write me a cover letter for this job advert? I did that recently. It's brilliant. And it just writes the cover letter because it knows you, and then you attach your CV, done. You don't have to do any work. Until they say, we'd love to have an interview. And you go, I have to answer questions and talk to this person in person, or maybe through online, but maybe in person. I think that's where that skill is going to make or break people, is can they actually show up to that interview? And that's a part of what Tough Yarns is for, right? Is just giving people the confidence to actually go, cool, I can go out and talk to someone. Beyond the coaching side of things, it's like even if they just go, well, if that guy can convince someone to jump in a freezing lake, then I can go out and start practicing whatever it is that I want to practice. Yeah.
Just going back to the gaming, I've actually got this on my desk.
Game Boy Color. It's an OG Game Boy Color.
And I've got...
Brilliant. Because I just bought an emulator
Pokemon Pinball.
I never played that.
Never played Pokemon Pinball?
Don't think
Wow,
so.
you need to learn. It
I
is
bought an
my
emulator
favorite.
and it quite quickly consumed me, and then I realized that I've got all of these things going on that I should probably put the emulator in the bottom drawer until I'm finished with my Movember mission at least.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't play it that often. It's mainly a decoration on my desk, but every now and again I have a little play. But
Yeah.
just going back to what you were saying about communication and things like that, I think that is also not only in the workplace, because obviously you've got things like instant messaging like Teams, where people aren't picking the phone up to speak to someone, they quickly message them instead. I think that without going into a whole other podcast, it's also sort of filtering into the dating scene as well, because instead of people meeting naturally through maybe a night out at a bar or in the shops, they're sort of contacting each other through a dating app. And it's that you're not having that connection, like interpersonal connection. It's very cold, I would say.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, and you just I've been with my partner for 5 years now. So it's been a long time since I've been on the dating scene, but I tried Tinder once upon a time, and honestly, I really struggled with it. But talking to someone in the supermarket, as much as a lot of people are like, you shouldn't approach women in the supermarket because they're just trying to do their shopping. It's like, it all depends on how, if you walk up to them and be like, hey, pretty lady, like Johnny Bravo kind of thing, yeah, you're probably doing the wrong thing. But if it's like just saying hello to somebody and maybe acknowledging them, or, when people have tattoos or bright colored hair, I'm not going to give anyone a dating advice, but this kind of is. Like, if someone has something that's different, bright colored hair, tattoos, like a wild piece of clothing or something, complimenting them on that is 9 times out of 10 going to get you somewhere. And if you compliment someone on being pretty or having pretty eyes, like, it's just, they have no control over that. But if they're making a statement by doing something wild, which tattoos or colorful hair or wild piercings or a, funky coat or something, most people like it. And it's, you can, and then with experience, I was about to say, you can judge their reaction. And then with experience, you can judge their reaction as to whether or not they actually want to continue on with the conversation. You know what I mean?
The thing is, like our grandparents and great grandparents, that's how they would have met, because they didn't have these options. So the whole thing of you shouldn't approach people in the shops, and like, that's how it used to be.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, exactly. I mean, Michael Caine with his wife, right? He saw his wife on an advert on TV. And then, I don't know if you've heard his story with his wife. So he saw his wife on an advert on TV, and he's like, he must have thought she was from South America or lived in South America. And he's like, that's my wife. Like, I'm going to marry that woman. And they were like, he was like, all right, we need to go to South America tomorrow. And his manager was like, no, she lives just around the corner. And kind of made the introduction. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, actually, approaching people isn't that creepy if you do it in the right way. It's creepy if you're creepy. It's creepy. I should rephrase that because that came out wrong. But it's creepy if you don't take the time and energy to actually be able to understand whether or not that person wants to start a conversation. And if you try to force something, it's never going to happen.
But that only comes through experience as well.
100%.
Doing the thing. So to round this one up then, because I'm conscious of the time, we could probably end. We did mention about doing a Rogan, and I think we could quite easily go that way.
maybe another one we can dive into some dichotomy of control and some Festina Lente, definitely. And I'd love to.
Definitely have to get around to. But I was just going to say, to round it off, have you got one piece of advice for the listeners to sort of leave with today?
Do the difficult thing. It's kind of become the catchphrase. Yeah, whatever it is that you're putting off, do it.
Love it. Andrew, thank you very much for coming on the Big Lab podcast.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
No problem. If you got this far, drop a like. And if you're new, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.